I know you mentioned about who rightfully should have been Super Bowl MVP. And Kenneth Walker, you can make every argument that he deserved it, right? When you look at his numbers here, 100 and what was it? 56 total yards from scrimmage.
56. Yep.
When you factor in 135 rushing yards and 26 receiving yards, 161 yards from scrimmage. No touchdowns, though. He gets Super Bowl MVP. Does the Seattle defense have a right to say that maybe we as a collective unit should win MVP? Brad, is that something you think maybe the NFL should consider going forward?
Yeah, exactly. And honestly, I would take a page out of fantasy football. There are some leagues that are out there that are IDP leagues, individual defensive player formats. I've rarely played in those over the years, but most often when you draft a defense, it is defense/special teams. I don't know if you want to individualize where it's just team defense, or if you want to individualize team special teams, or combine the two. But both, I think, were honestly deserving of MVP accolades. Sorry with the special team side. Jason Myers hits a Super Bowl record 5 field goals in the game. He was virtually money in the bank. And their punter, oh my God, how many coffin kicks did he have? Like 3 inside the 10-yard line? And really
most swag I've seen from a punter, by the way, in a long time. Most swag I've seen from a punter.
It was amazing. What he was able to do, what he was able to consistently accomplish, putting New England behind the 8 ball every single time, going against that vaunted defensive front and the back end as well. He deserved some credit for, a slice of the MVP trophy. So my recommendation to the NFL is, every single time you're going to give this practically, I know we've seen instances of defensive players winning the Super Bowl MVP award, whether a defensive line, maybe on the back end, but it's a very, very rare occasion. We are in the day and age that offense usually reigns supreme in the minds of a lot of people, but the defensive effort of the Seattle Seahawks, and to a certain extent as well, the special teams effort, needed an accolade of their own. So we could go about it where we could separate and have an offensive MVP and a defensive MVP. That could be option number one. Or again, we sector it out where it's team defense or team special teams, and you could vote on one of those, or combine defense and special teams like you do in fantasy football. And that is an option on the ballot for the voters that are out there, because I love Kenneth Walker. He was great. I understand why he got the award, but the defense, and to a slightly lesser extent, these special teams are the true reasons why Seattle, put the caps on. They had the celebration T-shirts that they were adorning, and they're going to have a ticker tape parade in the Great Northwest here in short order. So we got to figure out different qualifications and classifications that the voters can, put their 2 cents on when choosing MVP during the Super Bowl every year. And I will now step off my soapbox.
Yeah, look, I disagree with what you said. I disagree that Kenneth Walker should have been Super Bowl MVP. I'm in favor of keeping it as one. Do we get no love for Jason Myers? I know you mentioned him. Why wasn't he Super Bowl MVP? He single-handedly or single-footedly outscored the Patriots. He scored 17 points. He won the game on his own. And if not for him in the first 3 quarters, this was a scoreless game. Now, look, I understand. Well, what you can tell me the kicker is going to miss every field goal? Did he even make a 50-yarder or longer? No, he didn't. But like in the biggest game of the year, those points are important. And the way Seattle played that game, they basically said, hey, we've got a weapon that we know is going to make these kicks, that we know we're getting 3 points no matter what. We're playing. I mean, look, they had a 3rd and 12, and they ran the ball from the red zone so they could kick a field goal at one point in this game. Jason Myers hit from 33, 39, 41, 41, and 26, and he hit the 2 extra points, which, I mean, who knows? Maybe it changes the game even just a little bit. But the fact that this guy had all 12 points going into the 4th quarter. How does Jason Myers how does he not win Super Bowl MVP? I'm not even going to say how does he not get considered, because he probably was considered. How does he not win it? Hey, as great as Kenneth Walker was, he didn't score a touchdown. And he got 30 yards on those last 2 drives, and the game was basically over. So, he still ends up, even if you take those out of the equation, he still would have had 130 scrimmage yards, which is a pretty damn good game. But he didn't single-handedly beat the Patriots. He wore them down after run over run. But honestly, man, if they would have ran the ball 29 times with George Holani, I still think the Seahawks win this game. I'm not saying that George Holani is Kenneth Walker, and I'm not trying to take credit away from Kenneth Walker, but he wasn't the most valuable player in that game last night. It was Jason Myers, who was the kicker, who literally had every single point in this game until the fourth quarter, single-handedly outscored the Patriots, gave the Seahawks every and any protection that they needed to exact and carry out the game plan that they wanted. And, how many times have we seen in this postseason games get decided by kickers missing field goals and in the regular season? And this guy hit every single one of them without a single shadow of a doubt. If he misses just one of those field goals, and, even after the Seahawks go up 19-0, he misses just one. That's a 16-0 game instead. And when the Patriots score with 12:27 to go, they could have made it a one-score game by going for two. And who knows? Maybe things would have changed. Maybe it wouldn't. Maybe it still would have played out the same way. And even if Jason Myers misses one of those extra points, then all of a sudden the Patriots score that touchdown with 2:21 to go. And, it's maybe looking at least a little bit slightly less of a miracle. I know I'm kind of really trying to make an argument here for Jason Myers, but I just think it can be as simple as this. The guy scored 17 points on his own. The Seahawks carried out their game plan to the point where he was coming in to finish off drives. It wasn't Kenneth Walker, who had a really good game. Seahawks defense had a really good game. But you're asking me who was the most valuable player of this game? It's the guy that scored almost half of the points of the entire contest single-handedly. I think Jason Myers, if there was ever a game to give the kicker the Super Bowl MVP, last night was that game, Brad. One that really was boring as all hell.
Yeah, and to make a strong argument, but again, I'm going to go back to my point. Let's use the C word. That C word still exists, I believe, in this American democracy, and that is compromise. And that's why I'm suggesting let's bring defense and special teams together, mi amigo. And if you want to vote on that, if you felt that those two entities conjoined were the most dominant part of the game and the reason why X team won the Super Bowl, then let's give them an award. A team-wide award, a unit-wide award as a result. So I think that is a fair way of doing it, or at least, again, lumping together all the defensive players, lumping together all the special teams players, at least have those options on the table instead of having these individualized awards that we saw last night. And again, I'm not throwing shade at Kenneth Walker III. He's actually one of my favorite running backs in the NFL, and I'm glad they ran him in the ground because the dude is awesome on a per-touch efficiency basis. But again, last night, the reason why Seattle won, A, the defense, although you're going to say A, Jason Myers, but I'm going to say B, it's Jason Myers. And really, it's like a 2A, 2B because her punter was downright incredible. So defense, special teams together. Let's make it happen and embrace fantasy football in reality.
Yeah, our producer Brandon Combs says in our show chat, the league only promotes offense. Funny considering the last two Super Bowls have been about dominant defenses. I agree. I mean, I don't think you ask anybody that watched that game. You just ask them, answer me one reason, one sentence, 5 words or less. Why did the Seahawks win that game? And nobody's saying Kenneth Walker. Everybody's either saying, well, the kicker had every point into the fourth quarter, or the defense dominated. It wasn't because of Kenneth Walker.